Nice life.
Так. Добрый времени суток, уважаемые участники. Извиняемся, что немного задержались. У нас были немного технические неполадки, но, слава богу, все прошло. Надеюсь, сегодняшний наш стрим будет хорошо пройти. Вот, наконец-то, сегодня суббота, и мы с вами в стриме. И сегодняшняя наша тема «Как основать успешный стартап в Кремниевой долине». И для обсуждения данной темы мы пригласили специального гостя из Америки, Захир Мухитдина, который является основателем levels.fyi, и еще он успел поработать в таких компаниях, как Amazon, AWS и LinkedIn. Сегодняшний стрим будем вести Шер Сангинов и я. Hi guys. Hi guys.
Hey Zahir, how are you? Salam
Hey,
alaikum.
pretty good. Walaikum salam.
Yeah, welcome to our stream. I'm very happy to have you. So for audience who don't know who Zahir is, Zahir currently is a co-founder of levels.fyi, the visualization tool for different salaries at different companies in the Bay Area and all over the US actually. Just to get started, can you tell us a little about yourself and how you got into tech?
Sure, yeah. So again, my name is Zahir, and I've been in tech has always been fascinating for me ever since a young age. My father is actually also into startups and also into technology, and so it's kind of a very natural path for me to be in technology. And so ever since a young age, I was always interested in tech, and I started coding first in high school actually, and when I was about maybe like 15 or so. And I got into coding websites and small things like that. Eventually, I kept on coding, and in college, I made an iPhone application, which was kind of my first big product, and I released that, and I actually had millions of users for that iPhone application in college, which was kind of my first like entrepreneurial thing, and that really got me hooked onto technology and entrepreneurship and all of that. And so right after, in high school, I started coding. In college, I kind of developed my skills a little bit more and finally released some like products and things. After college, I joined LinkedIn as a full-time engineer. And then I joined, I was there for about 2 years. I joined Amazon, and I just left Amazon late last year, and now I'm full-time at levels.fyi. So it's been an interesting journey, but it's been exciting, and I've gone through a lot of different changes in terms of big companies, smaller companies, and technology has always been kind of at the center of my life in some ways.
Awesome. So as you mentioned, your first like big project where it had millions of downloads was like a startup idea, so like Tech for Likes, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah. So what Tags for Likes is, so I used to, I'm very into photography. I love photography. And so I joined Instagram, which I'm sure everyone probably has heard of now, but I joined it really a long time ago when it first came out. And when I joined Instagram, what I realized is, I would post my pictures, and I wanted more people to see my pictures and more people to view my pictures basically. And so I was trying to think of ways of how I can get more people to look at my pictures on Instagram. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what they want on Instagram. They want more people to look at their pictures and to actually get likes on their pictures. And so what I realized is if you pasted a hashtag on to your pictures, if you added hashtags to your pictures, people searching those hashtags, when people search those hashtags, your pictures will show up. And so if you think about it, if it's a popular hashtag, if there's a lot of people searching for that hashtag, then more people will see your picture and more people will like your picture. And so using that knowledge, I realized, I should, if I gather the most popular hashtags on Instagram, and paste them into my pictures, then I will get the most amount of visibility and I will get the most amount of likes. And so I built an application to gather the most popular hashtags. And a lot of other people also want more visibility and more likes on their pictures. And so obviously people that were interested in that downloaded the application. And it also went viral because in every hashtag, in every group of hashtags that people would copy, I would also include my own hashtag, which was the company name called Tags for Likes. And so people would see that and they would wonder what is tax for likes, and they'd eventually see my application. And so that made the app go viral actually also.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And then you later joined LinkedIn and Amazon. And what projects did you work on when working for Amazon? And what was the reason for you to move from a startup to a big company like Amazon and LinkedIn?
Yeah, so after college, I realized that there's only so much you can learn kind of by yourself and by doing your own things. You learn a lot actually at a bigger company. They teach you kind of like, the right way to do things. You learn about, all different processes and different things, how to build products at scale, right? With thousands of users or millions of users. And so, what I realized is, although I wanted to do startups, I also wanted to learn the proper way of doing things in some sense. And so that's why I decided to join bigger companies first, so that I can learn I can learn the tricks of the trade. I can learn how people, build things at scale. And so that when I try to start my own startup later on, then I'll have all of that knowledge and be able to do all of that. And different people have different approaches. Some people like to just go straight into startups, which is fine too. This was just, a personal choice and a personal journey that I thought I wanted to learn sort of the best way of making things, and then go out and try to build my own things.
Yeah, definitely. And then you later started levels.fyi. And what was the main motive to start your own company again after working for these large companies?
Yeah. The main motive, there's something special about kind of making your own and building your own products. And I think for me, it was always, I love thinking about different ideas, and I love building new things. That's very much just in my blood. I like making things. And so for me, like I would always have an itch, like even when I was at work, I would always want to make my own thing or try building my own product, because I have all of these ideas. And so one of the ideas that, when I was actually switching from LinkedIn to Amazon, when I was joining Amazon, I was trying to figure out which level of engineer I should be when I joined Amazon. So I had gotten promoted at LinkedIn. I got promoted to become a senior engineer at LinkedIn. So I started out level 1 and I got promoted to level 2, which was called senior engineer at LinkedIn. Now, when I joined Amazon, I wanted to make sure that I come in at the same level. I'm not getting demoted. I'm not coming in at a lower level. And so at Amazon doesn't call it senior engineer. They call the second level SDE2, which is it's a different name. And so, realizing that there was a problem there the only way I knew that is because my brother also worked at Amazon. And so I realized that a lot of people have the same question, and it's a common problem that exists for everyone. And so if I could build a tool for this, then, I think other people would also find it valuable, and it could be an interesting product as well.
Thank you. Can you talk about levels.fyi and how it all started?
Yeah. So, I mean, the start of that, I guess, is it's essentially this is really, I was thinking about, I wanted to switch from LinkedIn. And I wanted to join Amazon, and I was trying to figure out what the best, which level I should come in at Amazon. And realizing that problem, I decided to make a website that makes it easy to compare the different levels at companies. So what levels are, if you're not familiar with leveling, every company has a different a career ladder. So for example, you might start as engineer number 1, and then if you get promoted, you get promoted to engineer number 2, and then engineer number 3, and then so on. So every company calls it something else. Google calls it L3, L4, L5. Microsoft calls it 59, 60, 61, 62. Every company calls it something different. And so the original idea for levels, and that's why the company is called Levels, is to compare leveling at these different companies and make it easy for people to figure out what the same level is across different companies. And so that's the start of how we decided to build Levels.
Awesome. And the website is actually crowdsourced. So my question is, what's the process of adding salary data to levels.fyi? And is there like any verification process that checks the data is actually correct?
Yeah. So the process for adding data it's quite simple. We have a form on the website. So on Levels, if you go onto the website, there's an add salary button. So if you click there, it'll take you to a form, and you fill out the form, and it gets submitted to us. Now, what we do is we review all of the data that comes in. So every single data point that comes in, the levels.fyi team will review all of that data. And the way that we verify data is, number one is we use basic sort of statistics. So we actually check the numbers and make sure that it lines up with other numbers. And if something is an outlier or if something doesn't make sense, then we'll filter those out. The second way, which is kind of more recently added, which helps us get very accurate data, is we started collecting offer letters and W-2 statements. So if you're not familiar, basically, the government over here, when you pay your taxes, the company will issue you a document which you have to submit to the government, and that document has how much you got paid for that year. And it tells you the salary on that document, and so it's an official document. And so anyone that so we ask people for that document, and by checking that document, we can see that, okay, this is a verified salary. And using that verified data, we can actually, even not everyone submits this document, but if we have a couple people that submit that document, then we can look at all of the other data and say, okay, these are not verified data points, but we have a couple verified data points that are in the same range. And so from that, we can figure out, okay, this is accurate and good data.
Definitely, it's a very interesting technique. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So, sorry, can you setting your camera device?
There's like a settings for HD. I think currently it's like on
HD.
Yeah, if you go, there's a settings icon, cam and mic.
Oh, okay, camera resolution.
Yeah.
I see that. Okay, is that a little bit better?
Yeah. So it's on high definition, right?
Yeah, I've changed it to high definition.
Okay, great. So the next question is from Erkin Pomat.
How successful are levels.fyi at the moment, and is your business affected at all by COVID?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now we have about 300,000 users per month. So every month we get about 300,000 people that visit the website, which is alhamdulillah, it's a great number, and a lot of people actually visit the site. So we're quite happy about that. About COVID, we are definitely affected by COVID. Last month or in March is when all of the closures and things started happening. Because most people come to our website when they are looking for a new job or when they are switching companies. Now, during COVID, less people were switching companies. And so because of that, we also saw traffic decrease. We saw a lot fewer people coming to the website. But alhamdulillah, again, now it's coming back to, we're almost back to where we were before COVID-19 levels. The traffic is coming back and we're mostly recovered now from COVID.
Awesome. So a lot of people usually wonder how much funding do they need to start a business. So is levels.fyi self-funded or angel funded? And it would be great if you could share your opinions about funding your business.
Yeah. So one of the nice things about technology and websites is that it's very easy for anyone to make a website. And it's actually very cheap also to host a website and to actually publish a website online. So Levels, that the main website, when we started, it cost less than $1 or $2 a month to actually host. And only until now we started to get a lot more traffic. But even right now, to actually host the website and to run the website, it costs us less than $50 a month, US dollars a month, to actually run the website. So our costs are very little, or it's almost zero.
Yeah.
And so we are self-funded. We make money through advertising, and it's almost all profit because our costs are so low. And so we, to start a website is actually very cheap and easy to do these days, right? And so I encourage everyone to try to, make a website, even if it's a personal website, even if you're making it for your own personal homepage, try to make something, try to build something so that you actually have something. So you would get that experience. My first website, the first website that I ever built, was a website for myself. It was just zahir.me. It's still there. You can actually see it, www.zahir.me. It's much nicer now than when I first built it, but that taught me a lot of how to build websites. It taught me how to I didn't even know what the internet was. I didn't know how to, I didn't understand what a server was, all of these things. But just by building that simple website, I was able to learn a lot of these different things. And so I recommend that as like a first project. As if you're trying to get into coding, if you're trying to, get into building products, the first website I recommend is just building a personal website, because it's very easy it's easy to build. It's very simple, and it's, you're self-motivated. You like to see, it's nice to have a website for yourself. So, people are often like that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And how important is the idea versus the MVP or a business plan for like raising money for your business?
The idea is important, but I think more than the idea, the business plan and specifically how you actually will the marketing and going to market is more important, because you can have a lot of people have the same ideas these days. It's not so much about the idea. It's more so about how you can sell the product, how you can get visible. There's a lot of other websites just like levels.fyi. We have copycats. There's people that built websites just like levels.fyi. There's other salary websites like Glassdoor, Indeed. That's not, building is sometimes the easy part. The hard part is a lot of times the marketing. How do people find out about your site? How do you get users? How do you get people to contribute data? How do you get money? That is a lot of times the harder part of actually building a business, in my opinion. And so I think I think that's something to think about. Is the idea is important, but what's more important is in some ways is like the business plan and the marketing angle of it too.
Yeah, definitely. And what was the MVP version of levels.fyi?
So the MVP is actually, it looks very similar to what you see today on the website. It was just we didn't have any salary data actually. When we started, we didn't have any salaries. So although people know us now for our salaries, that's why we're popular now, because of the salary data. When we started, we didn't have salary data. All we had was on the homepage, you see these boxes with leveling comparisons.
Yeah.
That was what we started with. That was the MVP. And we were solving, my advice for if you want to think of a good idea for starting a business is think of a problem that you have, or think of a problem someone has, right? If you can solve a problem for somebody, then that's a good idea, because if you solve a problem for someone, then they will be willing to, they want the solution. And so people will come to your website or come to figure out what that is, right? And so the problem that we were solving is comparing levels for people. And that was a very clear problem. Actually, the way that we got the idea for this, part of the idea was I had a personal problem, and then I went on some forums, and online I was reading some forums, and I saw other people ask the same question. I saw people ask, what level is L3 at Google if I'm coming from Microsoft as a L59? So I saw other people asking the same or similar questions, and that validated the problem. That told me that, okay, there's other people that also have this problem, and that I should solve this problem for them.
Definitely. And now these days, when you go to like Tim Blind, they actually recommend you go to levels.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's funny because we used to, that was how we started marketing originally, is to actually get the word out, to actually get users. Originally, we would answer questions on Blind that, hey, check out this website to compare levels. And so I used to do that for a month or two. And then after a month, other people would answer with our website. And so it became like, I didn't even have to do marketing at that point. Other people were doing the marketing for us because we were solving that problem for people.
I see. So marketing wise, basically the way you guys did is just put it on Tim Blind and people start spreading the words, basically.
Yeah, it was very natural. We don't spend any money on marketing. We spend zero money on marketing. It's the way we get users is because other people recommend it. People say, hey, oh, what level is this at that? And the natural answer now becomes, most people will say, oh, go look at levels.fyi. That's where you go to see leveling comparisons.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Why do you think it's so important to bring salary and transparency to the teaching industry?
Yeah, salary. So salary is very important in a lot of different ways. Number one is being paid fairly, and I think we've seen that really recently. There's been a lot of movements and a lot of with pay equity, and gender wage gap. You might have heard of these things. So, people, male and females are not getting paid the same. Guys and girls are not getting paid the same. And so we although we started this before all of that, we started adding salary data before that. Salary data is important to, number one, get paid fairly, and number two, I think it helps people negotiate more too and get a better offer, and helps them get more money for what they're worth. Really, a lot of people get underpaid, unfortunately. Whether it's women or just general engineers, people are not getting paid how much they should be getting paid. And so, the other thing is that everyone loves to talk about money. Everyone loves to talk about salaries. And so what we realize is the reason why now we're much more famous for our salary data, but that helped us grow the site because so many people are interested in money. When we added salary data, we realized everyone wants to talk about money, and that became very popular because, again, it's a very interesting topic. People like to talk about that. And so it was important for us to add it to our website because it also helped get more users, as people like to talk about that and look at salary data.
Definitely. And how important is it to negotiate your salary when getting an offer? And do you have any tips for negotiation?
Yeah, always negotiate. Never take an offer that you don't negotiate. Always negotiate. And the number one tip I like to tell people is, a lot of times recruiters will ask you how much do you expect your salary to be, and you should never answer that question. You should deflect it. You should try to you can say something like, oh, I'm not comfortable answering that question, or what do you think the fair market rate for this is, or what is the you can answer the question with another question. You can ask them, what is the range for this position? What is the salary range for this position? Things like that. So the first tip for negotiating is, don't answer if they ask you how much you want to get paid. It's better to let them tell you a number, and then you can negotiate a higher. Because if you say a number and it's lower than what they were going to offer, then you've lost that money which they were going to offer. They can now offer you something lower, right? So first tip is never tell them what you expect in terms of compensation. The second tip is to really be to try to get competing offers. So if you have two offers from two different companies, it becomes very easy to negotiate, right? You have, company, let's say Google offers you 100K and Amazon offers you 120K. Now I can take my Amazon offer to Google and say, hey, Amazon's offering me, 120K. Can you increase this offer? And Google will be like, okay, I'll increase the offer. And now usually they won't match it. They'll make it a little bit higher. So 125K. Now, once it's 125K, you can go back to Amazon and say, oh, now I have 125K. Can you increase the offer? And you can keep playing that game. And so number one is, don't give a salary expectation. Number two is get competing offers. And number three is be persistent. Keep trying to negotiate. Almost all companies are willing to give maybe 5 to 10% extra salary without you having to, even if you don't have a competing offer, they're willing to give 5 to 10% more pretty easily. And so be persistent. Don't be shy of negotiation. If you have those three things in mind, I think that is kind of like, those are the main three things. So again, number one, don't reveal any salary and don't reveal any expectations. Number two, try to get competing offers. And number three, even if you don't get competing offers, is be persistent. Always do try to negotiate and try to negotiate some more.
Awesome.
What are some criteria for a successful launch of a product?
For successful launch of the product, the way that I look at it is, again, I think it goes back to solving a problem for people. If you solve a problem for somebody, then it's easy to launch a product, because then all you have to do is find out who has that problem and find out how to talk to the people that have that problem, and those people will be your users, right? For us, the problem that we were solving is the leveling problem, right? Now, how do we reach people? That have that problem? Well, the people that had that problem were on Blind, like Cher mentioned. A lot of those people were talking on forums like Blind, and they would ask those questions on Blind. And so we would go to those forums and answer that question for them. So, if you're solving a problem, then you just need to find out where the people that you're solving it for are hanging out. Where are they? Are they on? Can you find them online? Do you have to go and physically talk to them? things like that. So I would say really just if you're solving a problem, that's a good strategy of finding where the people that you're solving it for are and hang out, whether it's online or in person, is a good strategy for actually launching the product as well.
Awesome. Can you talk about the tech stack that powers levels.fyi?
Yeah, it's very simple. You might be surprised, but it's a completely static website. And so we don't have a server. We don't have, we don't have a server at all. So what we do is we generate the HTML pages. We generate all of the pages, on our computers, and we push it to. We use Amazon S3, which is basically their, you can store files on Amazon S3. And we use CloudFront, which is like a CDN. So if you're not familiar with the CDN, it's kind of like it stands for Content Delivery Network. But what it is it basically spreads your pages or spreads whatever you want around over the internet. And so using those two things, we have a very static website. We don't have any servers. We just build the web pages, and we don't use React. We don't use Angular. We don't use any fancy JavaScript technologies. We just use regular HTML, regular JavaScript, and we also use jQuery. That's about the fanciest thing that we use is jQuery. And those are all technologies that are very easy to learn. Sometimes people get scared of using React or Angular because it's a very big, heavy framework. My advice is, don't try to build using those tools. Just build with whatever build the minimum viable product, the MVP, build something very similar using the tools that you already know. You don't have to try and learn the hot new technology. You can stick with the tools that you already know.
Yeah, in terms of features, how different is current levels.fyi from the first version of the product?
It's very different. Again, I think salary data is kind of the biggest addition to the site, and that's kind of early on. Initially, our focus was around leveling. But now our focus is more about salary data, and not just about salary data, but all types of data for companies. So salaries, benefits information, leveling information, all of these different things we care about now. So as a product, we've evolved from just solving one problem of leveling to solving the problem of, hey, I want to switch jobs. What do I need to know before I switch jobs? Or what do I need to know if I'm applying to this company? Or what do I need to know if I want to be paid fairly? And so our mission now is, every company typically has a mission. Our mission at levels.fyi is to help people make better career decisions, helping people, find a better job, choosing a job, negotiating a higher offer, those sorts of things. And so we started with a small problem, and once we had more users, and once organically over time, we've started to add the problems that we solve, and now the problem that we're trying to solve is a much bigger problem. Is just generally helping people make a better career decision.
And when you started this company, you co-founded this company with brother Musa, I believe. And
yes.
So when looking for co-founders, how do you go about what do you look for in the co-founders, and what skills do they bring to the table?
Yeah. So I think something you always want a co-founder that's complementary to you. You don't want someone that's the same as you typically, because if you have the same skill set, then you're going to be butting heads. You're not going to agree. You're going to be arguing a lot because you're arguing. Your strengths are the same. You want someone where their strengths are your weakness in some ways. And so the strengths that I bring is that I come from I had experience at much bigger companies. I worked at Amazon, I worked at LinkedIn, and I had a very strong technical foundation. My partner Musa, he had, he worked at startups. He just graduated from college when we had started Levels, but he had worked at startups for a couple of years. And so he comes from a very different side of building products and of technicalness. So I come from a much bigger company standpoint, and he comes from a much smaller company standpoint, and we complement each other because he brings a very fast moving. He brings, smaller companies are known for moving fast, for being very scrappy and very lean, building things really quickly and with minimal resources. Whereas I come from, okay, I know how to build, a big project. I know how to, design something for thousands of users or millions of users, things like that. So we bring these complementary skills, and I think that's very important when you're selecting a co-founder, is having that complementary skills, and having, although you want complementary skills, you want agreement, you want to be on the same page about things like how you work together, like what is your working pace, if you guys, like working on weekends together, or you like, those small things will make a difference, because it helps, you want that person to be a friend in some ways as well. You want to be friendly with the person, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them, right? When you're co-founding a company.
Mm-hmm. How did you guys scale your website when traffic grow?
So the nice part about being a static website is there's nothing to scale. It's just because it's a static website, we don't have any servers. We don't need to add any more servers. It's all just, I just have to pay a little bit more to Amazon, AWS hosting. And they, because now we have more bandwidth, a lot more people download the website. And so, we don't have to scale anything, really. I think the one thing that we had to scale was when you submit a salary on our website, it actually goes to a Google form. Even today, it goes to a Google form, and we have a Google sheet with all of the salaries on it. Now, early on, we were actually, when we first started the site, we were downloading the Google sheet entirely every single time. Now, what happened was Google Sheets is very slow. It's not meant for being downloaded by thousands of users at the same time. So what we did is we wrote a Lambda function, AWS Lambda function, to pull the data from Google Sheets and paste it in Amazon S3, so that it's, Amazon S3 is very fast if you have a CDN. And so that was one of the big sort of scaling challenges that we had. But even then, it's kind of small because we don't have servers. It's very easy to scale the website.
Awesome. So when we need a job, we usually go to like career fair on LinkedIn. And how about when you need like funding for your business? How do you go about like reaching out to like investors, especially if you're not in the Silicon Valley?
Yeah, investors. There's two ways. One is if you build a good product and you're starting to get traction, investors will actually reach out to you. So we've had a number of investors actually reach out to us and contact us asking, to talk with us and actually see if they can invest in our company. So that's obviously much harder, but that's one way I do want to mention. The second way is actually getting in touch with investors. We also tried to reach out to investors, and a lot of the times we would just email investors. We would try to find them their email and email them our pitch. And a lot of these investors, there's thousands of investors, lots of different VC companies. And eventually, one person, if you have a good idea or if you've communicated it effectively, someone will respond. You will get a meeting. And so, I think a lot of the things that we do is we just cold email. We find someone's contact information, and then we email them right away. And we email them with what our pitch is. And so I think that's a good strategy. Also, you can definitely just certainly email people. There's also more structured programs like Y Combinator and other programs for like accelerators and things. And those are good. For those, you simply have to apply and craft your pitch and all of that. But that's another way as well.
Definitely. And recently there have been like businesses that were founded outside of the US, such as like TikTok recently has been very popular in the US and worldwide for startup founders in like Tajikistan who want their product to be popular worldwide and attract investors in the Silicon Valley. What are your tips and thoughts? Does the location of the product matter for a product to be successful?
The location doesn't necessarily have to matter. I think it's, I think the biggest thing that investors are looking for is growth and revenue, really, at the end of the day, right? Are you going to be able to make money profitably? You don't have to start a company for the US market. You can start a company for the Tajikistan market, right? You can build something that people in Tajikistan will find useful. And build a startup for just that, right? And there's a lot of businesses that are in America that you can copy and do in Tajikistan. Like for example, there's in India, for example, there's a Uber for India, and it's not called Uber. It was called or for in Arab countries it's called like Careem. There's company called Kareem for to use in Egypt. And sorry,
that has been very popular recently.
Yeah, it's very popular in those other countries. And so you don't need to. The nice part about starting a company in sometimes your home country like Tajikistan is a lot of the companies that exist in America don't yet exist inside of Tajikistan. And so you don't have to come up with an idea. You can just copy an existing idea, make it local. So, Kareem, the name is different. Kareem had a different, although it was very similar to Uber, they had their own personality of the company, and it had different features and things that made it very localized. And so in the same way, you just have to localize a product for Tajikistan or for whatever location that you're in. And I think that's a great strategy also for building a company. I don't think you have to build a product for everyone. You can build a product for your community or your country specifically. And I think it can be sometimes more successful because you know that very well. Whereas if you're trying to build a product for the entire world or for the US market, you might not know that market very well. And there's other entrepreneurs and people here that are trying to build products for the US market. So I would say just also try to think about building things for your country as well. And I think that could be very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And next question, Eric and Holmes.
What is the next for levels.fyi?
Getting better every time you say it. But the next thing for us, I think, is we're expanding. For us, the biggest thing is having more data. And so we're expanding both the number of companies that we have on the platform, and we're also expanding globally. And so we're starting to add other countries. And so for us, we want more types of data, not just company leveling data, salaries, but we also want benefits data, reviews, all of these other things that you're interested in. But we also want to expand the number of companies as well as the number of countries that we operate in. And so the next step for us is growing our presence across the world and growing our presence across we're also known very much in technology. So we're known for software engineering, but we also want to grow into other fields like product management, data science, product designer, all of these other roles as well.
Yeah, and what is like a main source of income for levels.fyi? How do you make money usually?
Yeah, we have two sources. Number one is advertising. So we have ads on the website, which we don't have it we have them primarily in the US, Canada, and some of these other locations. The second stream of revenue is we actually sell the salary data to companies that are interested in, so companies, they have to figure out how much to pay their own employees. So like Google has to figure out how much should we pay the engineers. There's someone whose whole job it is, they're called compensation analysts. Their job is to figure out how much to pay the employees. And so they need data from other companies to figure out what the market rate is, how much other companies are paying. And so a lot of companies actually purchase our data to help figure out how much they should pay their employees. And so we make money from those two different ways.
And I'll also notice there are some like different positions, like internship positions that the companies, different companies put it, or do you guys put it there?
We put it. So we crowdsource and we collect internship information as well as full-time information.
I see. And you also mentioned like having ads on the platform for people who have a startup and want to put some ads on their platform. How do they go about it? Do they have to reach out to those companies, want to put ads, or what do you think?
Yeah, it depends. Both. We did both. We reached out to our sponsors initially. And once you get enough traction, once you have enough users, people will reach out to you. But early on, you definitely reach out, and you want people that are, if your users are tech employees, then you want a company that targets tech employees specifically. You want a company that has the same audience that you have. And if they have the same audience, then there's a good chance that they will be willing to purchase ad on your page.
Awesome, makes sense. And so what are some of like 3 tips you give for people who want to start their own startup? Doesn't matter whether in Tajikistan or in the United States.
Yeah, number one, I would say is get started. Just start on something. Just start building right away. Because I have a lot of friends that want to start startups or want to start a business. The problem is that they just don't get started. And so my number one advice is start by building something. you know. Try to build something, even if it fails. Before I built tax for likes, and before I built levels, I built, you know, dozens of other projects. I've built, you know, tons of other projects. Not all of them succeeded. You only know the two that succeeded, but I've built many other projects beforehand as well. And the only reason why I was able to have success, alhamdulillah, with levels and tax for likes is because I learned how to build products when I built all of the other products. And even though those failed, I still learned something from it, and I was able to use that to build levels.fyi. And so I would say number one advice is get started. Number two is I think really think about, you know, it's easy to have an idea these days. A lot of people have different ideas for things. The harder question is, how do you get users? How do you, the marketing part of it? So I think, you know, and that's something you learn also by building a lot of projects, is for every new project that you start, you have to figure out how to get users. And I think through that is really how I learned how to actually get users, how to actually, you know, try to market a product and things like that. So the second piece of advice is figure out, you know, once you have an idea, technical part is you know, hard, obviously, but one of the harder problems is figuring out how to get users, and spend some time thinking about that and trying to figure out how to actually get those users, because that will ultimately, you know, you can have a great product, but if no one is buying your product, or if no one knows about your product, then it's worthless, right? Because, you know, no one's purchasing it. So the second piece of advice is figure out how to get users. And then third piece of advice, I don't know if I have a third. I have to think of that a little bit more, but you know, I think those are the two biggest problems that I see in folks when they're trying to start something. Is number one, they get stuck. They can't decide between ideas, or they, you know, they just like they don't actually start building something. And so really just start building right away. And number two is, once you start building, figure out how you're going to get someone to actually use your product. Those two things. And I think if you have those two things, then you will be, you know, you will have success in some way or form.
And I think you went to Berkeley for your undergrad, right?
I went to Irvine, actually. My partner went to Berkeley. Musa went to Berkeley. Yeah.
So how important it is, do you think, for a programmer to go to college?
I think it's important, but it's not that important these days. You can learn a lot of the tools and skills online. You don't need to go to a fancy college. You can learn almost everything that you need to learn. There's Coursera, there's Udacity, there's all of these online, Khan Academy, there's all of these online you know, training programs and things for free too, where you can learn all of these skills. I still encourage everyone to go to school and try to graduate and things like that, because that is typically the best way a lot of people learn, is like in person and in the classroom and things like that. But, you know, some people might be able to learn on their own. And so, you know, for that, then, you know, then sure, go and do that. But like, the main thing is, the goal is to learn the content. As long as you learn the content, it doesn't matter if you learned it through a university or you learned it online. As long as you know the content, then you'll be able to build things. Definitely.
And for the audience who haven't visited levels.fyi, I can share screen and show the website itself. So as you guys can see, this is the levels.fyi website, and here we have different positions: software engineer, product manager, and there's a lot more actually. Like when I checked maybe a couple of years ago, it was only maybe just software engineer position. Is it correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how did you guys go about adding a lot more data here? Is it just people adding?
Yeah, it's just people adding. You know, we get a lot of suggestions like, oh, can you add product management, or can you add this field? And so based on that, we start adding more.
I see. And now here we can go to more and like pick a company. Like let's say pick my company, which is Nextdoor, and we have different levels. And then here you can go and look at the different levels, and we have salary, stock, and bonus, and some other features as there's like all data, internship salaries, verified salaries for employers. So this is what you were talking about, right? For employer data.
Yeah, we sell data to the companies.
I see. Awesome. So this is basically the website for people who haven't visited it. So it's very important for you to visit this website if you want to negotiate. So I really recommend. And yeah, that's pretty much. Thank you very much, Zahir. It was great to talk about this. And
thank you, Zahir, for your time, for your experience, for your explanation about your experience. I think this is very helpful our developer and more people useful your recommendation. Maybe share, finish it. Thank you. Share.
Thank you.
Give special thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That was great. So thank you for audience for watching us as well. Yeah, we can wrap up.
Good luck.
Awesome. Thanks. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. Did you turn it off? The